Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. Well, it's been almost a year. It's been more than a year since Russia invaded Ukraine. It's been almost a year since I last spoke with a gentleman that I've met through Rotary International, who's a businessman, a very successful businessman in Kiev, Ukraine. Dmytro Popinako, who is the managing partner at a company, a software company by the name of Innoware. Mr. Popinako, Dmytro, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm okay. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Glad to see you.
Glad to see you. Very glad to see you. And I wanted to sort of chat with you and get an update on you, your life in Kiev, business, what's happening from a war standpoint as far as a resident of Kiev's concerned, how you think things are going. So tell me, how has the last year been? How have you survived personally and in business?
Right. Okay. Well, the last year was probably the toughest year in my life, and I will be 53 this year. Okay, so well, when I was at school, we were going through history lessons and studied the Second World War and the First World War, etc. As every other person, I got some impressions on how it used to be then, but it is all this information is nothing comparing to personal feelings when you're in a war, actually. So it's been tough. It's been tough. The city, I mean the Kiev city, used to be a popular tourist destination. There used to be lots of people outside on the streets. The total population topped at 6 million, I think, before the war. Currently, according to the information that we received from the city administration, the number of inhabitants is less than 3 million. And this number increased slightly after the first successes at the front line, after we managed to deoccupy some territories in the north of the country. So people started returning back, but still, if one looks at the street at the moment, there will be very few people, very contrasting to what it used to be.
Right. The
public transportation is rare. The buses, trolleybuses, and trams are empty. There are no traffic jams. well, one can consider it's a good thing, but providing the circumstances, this I would prefer, to stay in traffic jams rather than see empty streets outside. The life, well, in terms of general services like heating, water supply, food, etc. It's okay. It's like it used to be. The produce in the stores, in grocery stores, in the stores where you usually buy food, they're available, but the costs ran up. Yeah, because as you probably know, Ukraine is an agrarian country. We used to feed ourselves and also a big part of, for instance, countries located in Africa, in Western Europe. We even supplied food to Far East, like China, to Korea, etc. But now, providing that 20% of the country is occupied, there are a lot of mines on the fields, and our farmers suffer from this. We don't have enough food supply, so that's why the costs soared, the prices soared.
Well, I could sort of understand how you might be able to get domestic food supply, but are you able to get food supply from other countries?
Yeah, we're able.
Really? So supply chains are still working such that they can bring in food?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
And I've been amazed that so many foreign politicians have actually made their way to Kiev via train. So the trains are still going.
Yes. Yeah. Ukrzaliznytsia, which is state railroad station company, is working good, and basically the railroads company and the automobile transportation is what provides this supply chain and supply of products and everything, because the ports are not available at the moment because the Black Sea is under control of Russia.
Right.
Almost all, yeah.
And what about you in business? You had a successful technology business before the war, did you not?
Yeah, yes, I did. Well, the company is, I'm still running the company. The company is operational, but we're working, double hard to keep it afloat, because demand dropped significantly for our services. And I can remind Innoware provides consulting services for ERP and CRM systems implementations and support. And so demand dropped. We started looking for engagements outside of the country. We were lucky to find partners in Western Europe. We found clients in the United States even. We found clients in Africa, which is, not very usual for a Ukrainian company. And, it's very hard, but we're running. So it's hard to explain in words how it feels, but we cut all costs that it was possible to cut. We negotiated with all our suppliers discounts. But still, okay, it is very hard. It's in terms of revenue, the drop was in times, I would say. So it's very hard.
Did you have to lay off many employees?
Not very many.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And do you actually go to an office, or do you work from different homes, or how does the company actually operate?
Well, I am currently in the office. So we have so-called an office day on Wednesdays. We are in the work from office. So people can come and work just to have a possibility to communicate in the usual manner. But since the beginning of COVID-19, we switched to remote work, and providing that we're a technology company, we have all means that allow us to work from our homes. And many people are abroad. They fled after the beginning of the war because nobody was sure what will be happening in the country. And some of them still stay there. And so it's a mixture. So sometimes we work from the office, but most of the time we work remotely.
And I think your personal story is that you had a place north of the city, and you were overrun, in that first couple of days, and then you had to escape. Isn't that part of your story, your own personal story?
Yes, it is. Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about that, if you could.
Well, there was the second day when we were planning to sit in our cars and move to the west. My older daughter lives in Warsaw, so we were thinking of going to her because I wanted to deliver my wife and my youngest daughter there together with the pets. We're cut basically by the front line, cut off, and we were not able to leave the house and stayed there for 2 weeks until we managed somehow to escape from there. So since then, the family was in Poland. They managed to cross the border. Men then were not allowed, and still are not allowed to leave the country because we're under the martial law, and we need to stay inside. So my family stayed for a couple of months with my older daughter. Then they moved to Germany, to Hanover, to our relatives, and stayed there for a couple of months. The younger daughter went to a German school, which was an interesting experience. Then actually they didn't like it very much there, and returned back to me in the beginning of December. So my family is with me now here in Kiev, and I'm very happy because of this. Yeah, sorry, I kind of switched the subject maybe, but you were asking me how the escape went. Yeah, I told you last time, I think, how it went. We were stopped by Russian soldiers at checkpoints and checked. They took off our mobile phones. Lucky we were that they didn't take our personal belongings and computer and money that we had with us. But we had to leave our car because the bridge which we had to cross was blown, was destroyed. And also while we were approaching that destroyed bridge, they shoot us from mortars. But we were lucky that they didn't hit us. But the explosions were very near. So that's the experience that I will, remember forever. The poor thing that which makes me kind of upset very much is that the youngest daughter was with us, and she was 11, and she had the experience which I would never wanted her to have in her life. This shooting and enemy soldiers, etc. So it's kind of very, very unpositive, let me say, put it so, experience.
I can well imagine.
Yeah.
And this house that you were in was north of the city in some of the areas that were occupied most violently for several months. Were they not? Were you not?
Well, we were lucky that our village, where we have the country house, stands kind of a little bit aside of the main road from where Russian troops invaded, and all the atrocities which you just mentioned were happening in the suburbs of Kiev.
So not close to where you were.
Yeah.
Have you been back to the house?
Yes, I've been. Well, actually, we go back and forth now.
Was it all right? Was it destroyed? Did they occupy it? Did they do anything to it?
No, it wasn't touched, and we were lucky.
You were very lucky.
Yeah.
What an incredible, unbelievable, terrible, incredible year that you and all of your country people have lived through. It is really, it's unbelievable that, we read all these stories about or saw these movies about World War I and World War II and never thought anyone would have to live through that again. And yet you are.
Yeah. Yes. And as I said, this cannot be explained in words, because every time now, when we hear an air raid alarm, and they're regular, Russia keeps shooting at us the rockets, drones. So an air raid alarm is a very usual thing now in Kiev.
Yep.
And this is an experience which I never thought would be in my life. But again, looking at my neighbors, for instance, I can see that people stopped reacting normally to those air raid alarms. So many people stay at their apartments without going to shelter. So that's another, I don't know, is it a habit of war or how it can be called? But it is something that proves that humans can adopt to any circumstances.
Yeah, we become very resilient and just put up with stuff. It's an incredible experience, incredible story. I thank you for sharing it with us. We're going to take a break for some messages and be back in just 2 minutes with Dmytro and talk a little bit more about what's happening in Kiev, what's happening in the war, and more about his experience in his own personal life as well as in his business life. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. Our guest tonight is Dmytro Popinako. He is a managing partner of a company in Kiev, Ukraine, by the name of Innoware. He with technology company. He and I had a chat about a year ago about his life in and business life and personal life in Kiev. He was introduced to me because he was very involved in something called Rotary International Businessmen's Club. He's really got quite a impressive background. He graduated with a master in computer science and radio engineering from the National Technical University of Ukraine, the Kiev Polytech Institute. He's also got economist, marketing, economics, accounting courses at Kiev Business College. He was the regional director for Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and Azerbaijan for a technology company in the 90s. Then he was a founding member of the Rotary Club Kiev International Business in 2020, so quite a while ago. And he's been a managing partner of InnoWare for the last 22 years in Kiev, Ukraine. So he's got really quite an impressive business background, academic background, and community background. Sir, tell me a little bit about the business community. You, as we talked, were introduced to me from Rotary International. When I was in Kiev, we talked about this in 2006, 2007. I came to some Rotary International lunches. You had an active business community, very positive business community, trying to help each other, trying to grow internationally. Are you still meeting? Are you still talking? What's happened with the business community?
Well, the community is quite dispersed at the moment. Not very many people, as I said, are in Kiev. Some businessmen that used to have operations in the east of the country had to move their companies from the war zone actually to the western part and moved themselves as well. So in Kiev now, business climate is very calm, I would say. The Rotary Club, we do have meetings. They occur online. We didn't manage to restore our offline meetings as we used to have before the war. So every fortnight, every 2 weeks, we have a club meeting and we discuss things. We discuss projects. We discuss how we can help the country to win in this war and how to help our people to survive it. Generally, business activities are at a pretty low level, to tell you frankly. Yeah,
I can imagine. Actually, I can't imagine how there's any business activity in the middle of a war zone. Do you have any knowledge about what the stats might be? What the drop in GDP has been, or what the unemployment level is, or are there any stats to give us a sense of how bad things are from a business standpoint?
Well, part of the information that usually would be available is not made public because of security reasons, I think. But what we officially heard from the government is that the drop of GDP last year was 30%. And I have a feeling that it's higher than this because really? The first quarter of this year was very, very difficult.
And you say that many people have left the country, but the males are not allowed to. That must be pretty tough. You lived for what, 8 months, 9 months without your family?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it is tough. Yeah, I totally agree with you. It is very tough.
Are many men still away from their families?
Yes, that's what I was just going to say, that many of my friends live without their families, from the beginning of the war till now. And we don't know when they will be able to reunite.
And you're lucky that your family has come back and that they've come back and you haven't had any problems, obviously. Are you like right downtown Kiev, or are you in danger's way? I'm
right in the center.
So one would think that would be a potential target, would it not be?
Oh, well, air defense systems have been improved lately. So well, you know what? It's not that they would target exactly to the downtown or in the center. their rocket launches have a terrorist meaning. So they just want to hit anywhere, because what they need casualties. They want to scare people. That's what they want to achieve. They cannot destroy the city with their rockets. It's just impossible. It's a big city, yeah, and providing that they've been shooting at us for many months now, aiming at the energy supply devices and the transformers and the energy stations, and we still have electricity. Yeah, it means that they do realize that they cannot harm the economy by shooting rockets, but they can harm people. They can kill people, and that's what they're doing. They just want to scare us.
Is it working?
No.
The sense we get from Western media is that, if anything, this attempt at terrorism is making the strength of Ukrainian people even stronger, that the hatred for Russia and Russians has increased even more, and the desire to defend their country has increased even more. Is that an accurate picture, or are people just willing to give up and surrender and get on with their lives?
No, it's a very accurate picture. It's a very, sometimes, I have a thought, I'm starting to think, how will we, after the war, after the victory of Ukraine, how will we live with those people? I used to work in Russia for a year and a half in the end of '90s. I know what their thinking is. They're very different from us. They're very different from how a Western how Western people think. This hatred, this kind of irrationality is in their minds. So the thought which I have is, how will we be able to live together after the war? It's a very interesting, hard question, because we used to have lots of Russians living here in Ukraine. We had lots of Ukraine living in Russia. I think this has changed for many years, for decades, or even centuries. I don't know. Sorry.
I heard a statistic. I'm not sure if it's right, but a statistic that there's 1 in 4 Ukrainians has a blood relative living in Russia, so that there's a lot of Ukrainians that have mothers, aunts, sisters, brothers, whatever, living across the border in Russia, which, if it's true, would be a statistic comparable to how many Canadians have blood relatives living in the United States. And that the undefended border between Canada and the United States, someone said, is very comparable to what was at one point in time the undefended border between Ukraine and Russia. And so that the populations, the families, the economies were very, very integrated. Is that at all accurate?
Yes, this is true. Absolutely.
So how can those families continue to be families?
Well, from people that I know that have Russian relatives in Russia, majority of them, I would put it so, have cut any connections, even if those are close relatives, like mothers, fathers, sisters, or brothers. So it's kind of it's a very strange thing. Like, we're living like on one planet. Our countries are located very close to each other. So basically, the distance which might be between those relatives is not that significant, but the mindset is absolutely different. So when we, for instance, when a person that has a relative in Russia says that Russia invaded Ukraine and brought, this horror to our country, they might hear in response that, no, you provoked us, and that Putin was defending Russia by attacking Ukraine. and I mean, and we don't know what to say to this concept. I mean, it's kind of, we're here and they're there, like different poles. Absolutely.
So the Russian propaganda machine has worked.
Yes.
Tell me about Belarus, because it also is just north of, I guess, where your summer home is. It's where some of the Russian troops launched their offensive from. When I was in Kiev, 15 years ago, again, I met with people from Belarus. It was like it was just, a short drive away. And just last week, Putin announced that he was considering putting nuclear armaments in Belarus. Tell me what the attitude is between Ukraine and Belarus today.
Well, in my opinion, attitude towards Belarusians is, I don't know if it's the correct word, pitiful, I would say, because for us, we're very sorry that they have this president, which is a dictator, formally. We, providing that it's a neighboring country, and we have also Ukrainians have lots of relatives in Belarus. We know that Belarusian people are very generous, very kind, very mild, etc. So they're not like Russians. We think that by the end of the war, Belarusians will be also freed from the dictatorship, and the connections between our countries will be restored.
What about Moldova? I understand that there's a breakaway region in Moldova that is controlled by Russia, and they've been actually, trying to disrupt the government. Do you have any sense of what's going on in Moldova?
Okay, the region is called Transnistria region. It has a long border with Ukraine. With Moldova, the border goes across the Dniester River. I don't think that the disruptions which you mentioned were provoked by the people from the Transnistria area, because the population of the area is very small, I would say. Basically, it's just a Russian military base and people who protect it. The disruptions in Moldova and the demonstrations, Russian demonstrations, were prepared, financed, and launched by the Russian special secret services. And luckily, this was detected on time, and nothing major happened during those kind of protests.
But there's still Russian troops there, I understand. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. Yes, about 5,000 people.
I used to be connected with the Polish and Ukrainian communities in Canada, and a while ago, the Poles and the Ukes, they didn't like each other that much. There was a lot of animosity, at least in Canada, between the Poles and Ukes. There was lots of jokes about how the border went back and forth between Poland and Ukraine on numerous occasions, and they wouldn't intermarry, and even though their cultures were very similar, they had real difficulty at times, at least in Canada. And then in the last year, it seems like Poland, more than any other country in the world, has stood up to assist Ukraine. Yeah. Has that surprised you?
No. Well, yes. If you look back, many centuries ago, part of Poland were belonging to Kiev and Rus. Then big part of current Ukraine was belonging to Polish Rzecz Pospolita, Polish state. And there were lots of wars between Ukrainians and Poles. But now we both realize that Russia wants to establish control over Ukraine and Eastern Europe. And Poland is would be one of the next targets. So that's why I think we have all this support And the number of people who fled Ukraine and settled in Poland since the beginning of war is counted in millions. No,
Really, millions.
millions.
The population of Ukraine prior to the war was bigger than Canada's, was it not?
Yeah, it was about 40 something million.
So just a bit bigger than Canada, but in a far smaller, albeit a big country, a far smaller country than Canada. So far denser population.
Yeah.
And the east that is the target right now was the more industrial part of Ukraine, was it not?
Well, I would say yes. Why? Because they have had this ore mines, so they mined ferron there, and that's metals, and that's why the plants that processed this ore were also located in the eastern part.
Right.
And the eastern part was populated. Sorry, I just want to add one thing. Was populated by ethnical Russians, and how this happened in the beginning of the 20th century, after communists took over the power in Moscow. Stalin made the Holocaust in Ukraine. They wanted to destroy Ukrainian identity and to make a monolingual space, monoethnical space in the Soviet Union. And what it led to? It led to starvation and death of millions of Ukrainians. And this was mainly in the eastern part of the city, of the country. And then what he did, he moved there ethnical Russians. Well, again, there is no such ethnos as Russians. It's just a kind of umbrella name for many different nations. But still, he moved people from the territory of Russia to there, who spoke Russian language. And that's how we got this territory, which used to be populated by Ukrainians who spoke Ukrainian language and were, represented Ukrainian culture. But then after the Holocaust, which was 1932, 1933, the ethnical, the ethnos has changed, and Russians were majority in those eastern areas. So now when he started the war in 2014, actually, he kind of said that he wanted to protect the Russian-speaking population, which was living in the eastern part of the country. And this Russian-speaking population was moved there in the 30s.
Right.
Why they had to move it there? Because because of the industry. They built, Soviet Union built these plants, their industrial plants, and they needed workers who would work on those plants. And Ukrainians, before the Holocaust, didn't want to work on those plants because the Ukrainian population was mostly rural. They wanted to have their own. They would prefer to stay farmers rather than factory workers. And so that's how all this was organized and how it actually happened. Yeah, sorry. So this is what
we're chatting tonight with Dmytro Popinako. He's a founder of a technology company in Kiev, Ukraine. We're just talking about what it's like living there and being in business there during a war, which is just unbelievable, unfathomable. We're going to take a break for some messages and be back in just 2 minutes. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I'm checking back in today with Dmytro Popinako. He's the managing partner of a technology company in Kiev, Ukraine called InAware. He and I chatted just about a year ago after the first or second month of the invasion of Russia into Ukraine, about what it was like. He had really quite a harrowing experience as he was trying to escape his house that was north of Kiev and had to go through the Russian lines to escape. His family fled to first Poland and then Germany, and has now finally returned. They're living in the center of Kiev, and he runs his business, and business is obviously struggling. But Dmytro, it's amazing that you've survived, and I really think that you're chatting with me still, and you've got electricity, and you've got communications and Wi-Fi, and it really is quite astounding that you're in the middle of a war, and I'm very thankful to God, to the Ukrainian military, to whatever is the reason why, and your resilience personally, that you're still around and chatting with me. So thank you very much for connecting. Tell me, we get frequent news, every day in Canada and the United States about what's going on with the war. Not as much coverage today as it was in the past, but we get frequent updates. Lots of conversations about, is there going to be a Russian offensive or a Ukrainian counteroffensive? And what about these two towns that are being completely attacked in the east right now? I presume you get just as much, if not a lot more news. And tell me sort of what you think, and what you think your friends and people living in Kiev think about what's going on right now from a military standpoint.
Okay. We have a colleague who is at the front line, and he was injured, and now he's back here to Kiev. In his opinion, after the counter-offensive, which happened in the end of the summer, when Ukraine managed to return big territories in the north of the country, we came to a stall position where we didn't have enough resource to continue attacking, and neither had Russia. So, and this situation, in our opinion, continues till now. We are preparing for the counteroffensive, which is in the news, as you mentioned. We think it will happen. We don't know when and how. Of course, it's a military secret, obviously. But what we do know is that we need more military equipment. We need tanks. We need airplanes, military planes, because otherwise we'll have to send infantry, to send people to die. Yeah, so that's how we see the situation at the moment. If we had more equipment, we would be more sure about the next movements in the war, and we will be more sure about the time when we will defeat the enemy.
There's been a couple of incursions into Russian territory. Ukraine has not taken, as far as I know, responsibility for any of those incursions. And supposedly the United States and the West is putting pressure on Ukraine that Western armaments not be used in territory outside of Ukraine. Do you think Russia would react differently if Ukraine actually attacked Russia, not just the Russian-controlled parts of Ukraine?
Well, I don't see many reasons why to attack Russia with the Western ammunition and equipment. We just want them to withdraw from our territory. Well, of course, if there are military objects which are close to our border and from which they do the air raids, or from where they launch the missiles, of course, those are obvious objects for attacks from our side. But other than that, the population here in Ukraine does not support the idea of expanding our territories. Yeah, because I mean, we just need to go to the state of 1991, when we reestablished ourselves as an independent country, and that's it.
No, I understand that, and I agree with it. But I do think that you're never going to be able to win the war if you can't, somehow do something to the supply chain lines that are supplying all the the armaments to the Russian forces, and so that's undoubtedly one of the reasons why, from a military standpoint, there's been a couple of these incursions. Okay, tell me about Crimea. Is Crimea part of Ukraine? Some people say it was always Russia, and it was ceded by Stalin from Russia to Ukraine. Is that something that you think that Ukraine needs to take back?
Yeah, I think definitely. We need, again, if we don't restore our borders as of the state of 1991, Russia will continue their expansion. They will continue their attacks. Crimea is a Ukrainian territory. It's a home for Crimean Tatars who have no other place. It's their place of their origin, and they have the right to return there. And also from strategical standpoint, the Crimean Peninsula is located so that with the mid-range missiles, Russia can hit majority of Europe, control the east and the south. I mean, Turkey, up to the Mediterranean Sea, and from all standpoints, this territory must be freed from Russia.
So where do you think the counteroffensive, if it comes, is going to happen? Is it going to be Crimea? Is it going to be the east? Is it going to be?
Well, I read the news and I read the analytics done by the military specialists, and they say, yes, if counteroffensive occurs, then it should be first targeted at Crimea, or cutting the supply chain to Crimean Peninsula. Because if Russia loses Crimea, then the war is over almost. So that's, I think, makes sense.
Have you been surprised, impressed, or were you expecting the Western continued support from the United States, from Canada, from NATO?
Personally, I expected that, with all the respect to the help that we receive from the West, personally, I expected that it would be provided more quickly, and we didn't have to have these losses at the front line. And I didn't expect that there would be so many nuances, political nuances in the Western Europe between the countries like Germany, France. I'm not speaking about Hungary, Serbia, or Greece, for instance. But still, we're very grateful for all the help that we receive. And I think, I won't think that this help will not stop tomorrow. So I hope that the democratic world will want Ukraine to win in this war, because otherwise, I don't know what will happen to the world. I mean, I think it will provoke many other wars.
You think that you think that that if Russia is successful, Russia will go on and attack Poland and the Baltic states, and what, that China will attack Taiwan? Is that what you're alluding to?
Yes, for sure. As for me, it's almost guaranteed.
Almost guaranteed. Yeah. Let me turn to your family. How, if your wife was on this show, or your daughter, what would they say? How has their last year been?
Well, the Ksenia, my youngest daughter, she would say that she's very happy to get back. Well, she's young. Maybe she does not understand all the danger that she's exposed here. but she's happy because she's back to her dad and to her hometown, to her friends. My wife.
Is she able to go to school? Is she able to go out and play? Like, what's her life like?
Well, yes, she's able to go out. She's able to play with her friends. She goes to school. And if we ask her which school she liked more, German or Ukrainian, she would say that Ukrainian is much, much better. She for some reason she didn't like it very much in German. I don't know why, but that's the fact.
It's hard to believe that an 11 or 12-year-old young girl is able to go to school and play with her friends in the middle of a war. That's wonderful that life can continue like that.
Yeah. It is wonderful. Yes, it's amazing, I would say. Yeah, and Helen, my wife, she's happy. I mean, she's also at home. We like it here. I mean, this countryside house is beautiful. It's amazing. My daughter was once asked, I think it was in Poland or in Germany, how would she imagine a dream place to live and dream house? And she responded that she already has the dream house. It's our country house that we have here near Kiev. So, and yeah, we like it here. And it's our country, it's our land, and we want to stay here. And they're both, I mean, Helen and Ksenia are very happy to get back. So.
Well, if they ever want to come for a visit to Canada, you're welcome to come and stay in my house. And it would be my honor to get to know all three of you and host you to dinner. And sometime maybe after the war, I'd love to come visit you and see your.
You're very welcome. Yes, Brian. I will be happy to meet you in my house and to have a dinner as well. Thank you.
What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I don't know. Frankly saying, I don't know. I'm an optimist, actually. Yeah. Somehow we managed, in terms of business, somehow we managed to save the company, and we continue working. It's very hard. It's very tough, but we see that we can survive. In terms of the war, I hope that we don't know all the information about our capabilities. I mean, Ukraine plus our allies from the West, United States, Western Europe. And I want to hope that the counteroffensive that is expected widely will be successful. That's what I can hope for. But if I take off my glasses, how to say it? We say it's like
rose-colored glasses.
Rose-colored glasses, yes. Yeah. It could be anything. It could be anything. Russia is a big country. Their population many times is bigger than the population of Ukraine. They can recruit more soldiers and send them to die here in Ukraine. And this can continue for months and years. So I don't know.
If there's Canadian business people listening that might be interested in engaging your services, tell us what your company does, how you could assist Canadian companies, and how people could contact you.
Right. Okay. InnoWare, we're a Microsoft partner. So what we do, we implement and support Microsoft software, which is aimed for business management, so-called management information systems or ERP systems. The product names are Microsoft Dynamics 365. So this is our main activity. How to contact us? We have a website. We have I have a page in LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. We're in all major databases and websites where businesses can meet, for instance, Crunchbase or yeah.
Tell everyone what your website is, please.
InnoWare.com.
InnoWare.com. We're going to take a break, a final break, and come back with some concluding comments with Dmytro in just 2 minutes. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Radio Hour, Saga 960. I've had a very interesting, heartwarming, and heartbreaking conversation today with Dmytro Popinako. He is the founder of a company by the name of InnoWare, which is a technology company in Kiev, Ukraine. And he's had quite the year, as we can all imagine, as he's dealt with the Russian invasion of Ukraine and what it's meant to his family, to himself, to his business, to his country. Dmytro, just before we go, I've got to ask you, we've been inspired by your president, Zelensky. What do you think of your president?
Okay. When we had last presidential elections, I and my friends, the people that I know, didn't vote for him because we thought he would be pro-Russian. That's, my opinion that I used to have at that time. But now we are all united around him. So he showed to be a real man and a real Ukrainian. So I can only say that I wish him success and luck, and I wish he continues to manage the country as he does.
Dmytro, we wish you success and luck, and hope that your business survives and prospers, and hope that you and your family are safe. And I hope I get to meet you in person sometime. And I hope that this counteroffensive is very successful, and that you do turn Russia out of Ukrainian territory, and the borders are reestablished. And I hope that Ukraine joins the European Union and NATO, and that we solidify Ukraine as a democratic Western state.
Thank you, Brian. It was a pleasure to speak to you.
That's our show for tonight. Thank you all for joining us. And Dmytro, be safe, please.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you.
Good night. Good night, everybody. Good night, Dmytro.